Hi friends, today we'll discuss sampling theory. In that, sampling distributions. Suppose we have different samples of size n drawn from a population. For each and every sample of size n, we can compute mean, standard deviation and etc. And these will not be same. Suppose we group these characteristics according to their frequencies. The frequency distributions so generated are called sampling distributions. The standard deviation of a sampling distribution is also called as standard error. The reciprocal of the standard error is called as precision. Next, testing of hypothesis. In order to arrive at a decision regarding the population through a sample of the population, we have to make certain assumption referred as hypothesis, which may or may not be true. The hypothesis formulated for the purpose of its rejection under the assumption that it is true is called as null hypothesis, denoted by H0. Any hypothesis which is complementary to the null hypothesis is called as alternative hypothesis, denoted by H1. Now we'll go for the errors. In a test process, there can be 4 possible situations, of which 2 of the situations lead to the 2 types of errors and is below as in table form. That is, hypothesis is true, hypothesis is false, accepting the hypothesis, rejecting the hypothesis. Here we have 4 situations. Out of these, 2 will have the errors. That is, if the hypothesis is true, accepting that hypothesis is the correct decision. If the hypothesis is true, rejecting that hypothesis is the wrong decision. This situation is the type 1 error. If the hypothesis is false, accepting that hypothesis is the wrong decision. This situation is the type 2 error. And if the hypothesis is false, rejecting the hypothesis is correct decision. Now we can state the errors as: if hypothesis is rejected while it should have been accepted, it is said that type 1 error has been committed. If the hypothesis is accepted while it should have been rejected, it is said that type 2 error has been committed. Now we'll go for level of significance and confidence intervals. The process which helps us to decide the acceptance or rejection of the hypothesis is called test of significance. The probability level below which leads to the rejection of the hypothesis is known as significance level. This probability is conventionally fixed at 0.05 or 0.01, that is 5% or 1%. These are called as significance levels. Suppose we have a normal population with a mean mu and standard deviation sigma. If x bar is the sample mean of a random sample of size n, then the quantity z is defined by z equal to x bar minus mu divided by sigma divided by square root of n, is called as the standard normal variate. From the table of normal areas, we find that 95% of the area lies between z equal to minus 1.96 to z equal to 1.96. In other words, we can say with 95% confidence that z lies between minus 1.96 to 1.96. Further, 5% level of significance is denoted by z 0.05. Thus, we can write the verbal statement in mathematical form, that is x bar minus mu divided by sigma divided by square root of n lies between minus 1.96 to 1.96. Next, multiplying sigma divided by square root of n on both sides, then we will get minus sigma divided by square root of n into 1.96 less than or equal to x bar minus mu less than or equal to sigma divided by square root of n into 1.96. Now, by simplifying, mu less than or equal to x bar plus sigma divided by square root of n 1.96 and x bar minus sigma divided by square root of n into 1.96 less than or equal to mu. Now, combining these results, mu lies between x bar minus sigma divided by square root of n into 1.96 sigma x bar plus sigma divided by square root of n into 1.96. Similarly, from the table of normal areas, 99% of the area lies between minus 2.58 and 2.58. As per the above procedure, our mu lies between x bar sigma divided by square root of n. In place of 1.96 it is 2.58, and here also x bar plus sigma divided by square root of n. In place of 1.96 we can write 2.58. These values from the normal distribution table. If we see in the normal distribution table, 1.96 will get 0.475, but in the normal distribution table our z value is symmetric, therefore it is 2 times to the pi of z. Therefore 2 times into 0.475 will get 0.95, that itself is 95%. Similarly, 2.58, here we get the value in the normal distribution table 0.4951, and 2 times pi of z means we'll get 0.99, therefore it is 99%. Thus, we can say that equation number 2 is the 95% confidence intervals, and equation number 3 is the 99% of the confidence interval. The constants 1.96 and 2.58 etc. it is etc. in the confidence limits are called confidence coefficients denoted by ZC. From the confidence level we can find the confidence coefficients and vice versa. Now, before going to examples, we can see some more testing hypotheses, the results. For that, let x be the observed number of successes in a sample size of n, and mu equal to np be the expected number of successes. Let the associated standard normal variate z be defined by z equal to x minus mu divided by sigma, which is equal to x minus mu from the binomial distribution np, and this is also from the binomial distribution square root of npq. And this formula is different from previous standard normal variate. Now, the following are the test of significance. If mod z less than 1.96, the difference between observed and expected number of success is not significant. Here significant means rejection, means not rejected, it means accepted. If the value is less than 1.96, it is accepted. Next, second point, if mod z greater than 1.96, the difference is significant, means it is rejected at 5% level of significance. Third, if z is greater than 2.58, then the difference is significant, that is rejection at the level of 1% level of significance, and they reject the hypothesis. And similarly, mod z less than 2.58, the difference between the observed and expected number of success is not significant. Since P is the probability of success and square root of PQ divided by N is the standard deviation proportion of successes, and P plus or minus 2.58 into square root of PQ divided by N are the probable limits. Now we'll see some examples. A coin tossed 400 times and head turned up 216 times test the hypothesis that the coin is unbiased at the 5% level of significance. Here unbiased means not duplicate. Bias means duplicate. Suppose a coin is unbiased, that is not duplicate, then the probability of getting head is P equal to 1 by 2. If P is 1 by 2, automatically our Q is 1 by 2. Therefore, expected number of success, that is N into P. Here N is 400 and P is 1 by 2, therefore 200, that is mu. And observed number of success, that is head turned up, the 216, that is your X value. Therefore, we have the formula z equal to x minus np divided by square root of npq. Substituting the values and by simplifying, we will get 1.6, which is less than 1.96. Therefore, the hypothesis is accepted at 5% level of significance. Therefore, coin is unbiased. We need to remember this 1.96 for the 5% level of significance and 2.58 for the 1% level of significance. Now we'll go for one more example. A coin is tossed 1000 times and head turned up 540 times. Decide on the hypothesis that the coin is unbiased. It is similar to the last example. Suppose a coin is unbiased, therefore the probability of getting head, that is P equal to 1 by 2, then Q is also 1 by 2. Expected number of success, that is NP, here P is 1 by 2, N is 1000, therefore we will get 500. Next, observed number of success, that is X, here head turned up is 540. And we have the formula z equal to x minus np divided by square root of npq. By substituting and simplifying, we will get 2.53, which is less than 2.58. Therefore, the hypothesis is accepted at 1% level of significance. Therefore, the coin is unbiased. Now we will go for the one more example. Result extracts reveal that in a certain school over a period of 5 years, 725 students had passed and 615 students had failed. Test the hypothesis that the success and failure are equal proportion. Here total number of students, that is n, equal to pass students plus fail students, that is 1340. Observed proportion of success, that is 725 divided by total number of students, that is pass divided by total number of students, 0.54. But here observed number, that is 725, x is 725. But here we need to take success and failure are in equal proportion, therefore probability of success is p equal to 1 by 2. And expected number of success, that is np, equal to n is a 1340 and p is 1 by 2, therefore we will get 670, and we have the formula z equal to x minus np divided by square root of npq. By substituting and simplifying, we will get 3.01, which is greater than 2.58. Automatically it is greater than 1.96. Therefore, hypothesis is rejected at 1% level of significance. Now, we'll go for one more example. A dice was thrown 9,000 times and a throw 5 or 6 was obtained 3,240 times. On the assumption of random throwing to the data indicates an unbiased dice. Solution. Suppose here dice is unbiased, therefore we have the probability of getting every number is 1 by 6. Here n is 9,000, therefore probability of getting 5 or 6, therefore we can add by applying addition theorem of probability 5 only one times getting out of 6, therefore 1 by 6, or 6 is getting only once out of 6 outcomes, therefore 1 by 6, we will get 2 by 3, therefore it is 1 by 3. If probability p is 1 by 3, the q is 2 by 3. Then observed number of success, that is success 3240 and expected value of success n into p, therefore 9000 into p is 1 by 3, will get 3000. We have the formula z equal to x minus np divided by square root of npq. By simplifying, we will get 5.36, which is greater than 2.58. The hypothesis is rejected at 1% level of significance. Therefore, the assumption is wrong, hence the dice is biased. Hi students, now you can try the similar example for changing here throw 5 instead of 5 3 or instead of 6 4, and was obtained instead of 3240 times, you can take 3220 times. Now test the hypothesis. Now we'll consider one more example. In 324 throws of 6-face die, an odd number turned up 181 times. Is it reasonable to think that a die is an unbiased one? This is also similar to last example, but here the success is odd number turned up, therefore 3 numbers 1, 3, 5. Suppose the die is unbiased, therefore our probability of success for each number is 1 by 6. Here n is 324 and probability of throwing 6-face die, that is 1 by 6, but getting odd numbers is 1 by 1, 3, 5, therefore 1 is 1 by 6, 3 is 1 by 6, plus 5 is 1 by 6, therefore 3 by 6, which is equal to 1 by 2. Now the observed value of success, that is 181x, and expected value of success n into p, n is 324 and p is 1 by 2, therefore it is 162. Now using the formula and substituting the values, we will get the answer 2.11, that is less than 2.58. Therefore the hypothesis is accepted at 1% level of significance, Hence, the die is unbiased. Now, we'll consider one more example. A manufacturer claimed that at least 95% of the equipments which he supplied to a factory conformed to specifications. An examination of a sample of 200 pieces of equipment revealed that 18 of them were faulty. Test his claim at a significance level of 1% and 5%. This is different from previous examples. Let P be the probability of equipment supplied to the factory conform to the specification, that is P 95%, therefore P equal to 0.95. If P is 0.95, Q is 0.05. Here N is 200. Now expected number of equipments, that is mu equal to 200 into P is 0.95, that is 190. Now observed number of equipments, that is actual number, 182, because out of 200 there are 18 faults, therefore we can subtract from 200, therefore we will get 182. Now we can take the difference, that is expected is 190 and observed is 182, because we cannot take the negative value, therefore we can take the positive, because usually we take x minus np, but here we'll get the negative value, therefore we can take positive, therefore 8 and square root of npq is 9.5, and simplifying we'll get 2.59, which is greater than 2.58, therefore which is also greater than 1.96. Hence the hypothesis is rejected at 5% level of significance and 1% level of significance.